Day after day, we are surrounded by the presence of criminals. We are spectators to the deepest darkness in human actions and the bizarre reality that someone's suffering can be a form of pleasure. As dedicated investigators of the criminal world, we're on a mission to uncover the most shocking crimes and get inside the minds of those who commit them. I am Luke, and today I bring you another unreal true crime. The horrible case of Felix Verdejo. Felix Verdejo, born on May 19, 1993, in San Juan, Puerto Rico, began his journey in the sporting world at a tender age, swiftly rising to prominence by the age of 19. Celebrated as Puerto Rico's gem, Verdejo quickly made a name for himself in the competitive arena, consistently triumphing over his adversaries, regardless of their reputation or prowess. In 2014, his career reached a significant milestone when a major sports network recognized him as the most promising athlete of the year. By this time, Verdejo's net worth had astonishingly soared to $1 million. This rise to fame was particularly evident during his unforgettable match against Lauro Alcantar, another undefeated contender. The bout, filled with high expectations and comparisons, ended dramatically when Verdejo showcased his dominance by knocking out Alcantar in a mere 21 seconds of the first round. Verdejo's record of 16 wins without a loss solidified his status as an international boxing icon. In 2016, he tied the knot with Elis Marie Santiago, a renowned social media influencer. The couple, having started their relationship back in 2011 during their high school days, welcomed their daughter Miranda in 2018. However, Verdejo faced a new challenge after a 13-month hiatus from the ring. His comeback was against the world-class Mexican boxer Antonio Lozada Jr. The match, as anticipated, was an intense showdown. Going into the final round, Verdejo was leading, but visibly drained. In a surprising turn, with only 30 seconds remaining, Lozada Jr. unleashed a barrage of punches, leading to an intervention by the doctor and marking Verdejo's first defeat. Despite his public persona as an exemplary family man, Verdejo had a hidden side. He was involved with individuals in the substance trafficking world and had numerous affairs. One such relationship was with his ex-girlfriend from school, Kaishla Rodriguez, which eventually revealed the darker aspects of Verdejo's character. Kaishla Rodriguez, sharing Verdejo's birth year and city, had a close relationship with her parents and her sister. Living in an apartment in San Juan, close to her sister, Kaishla's life intertwined tragically with Verdejo's tumultuous path. She lived alone with her two little dogs, whom she treated as if they were her children. Kaishla was a great animal lover, which is why she worked at a pet grooming salon. One of her qualities that always stood out was her dedication to caring for animals. She was also known for being quite shy, calm, and reserved. She would meet Felix Verdejo in 2010 when she was around 16 years old, and they both attended the same school. They started a relationship while still teenagers, and although many believed they were deeply in love, the truth was that Felix was seeing other girls behind her back, and he didn't make much effort to hide it. His own wife came from the same school, but somehow both Kaishla and Felix stayed together in a toxic relationship marked by temporary separations due to frequent fights. Initially, their relationship was normal until Felix began to rise in his boxing career and met Elis Santiago. He maintained relationships with both women in parallel. Few years later, out of nowhere, Kaishla and her acquaintances were surprised to hear that Felix had proposed to Eliz, which for many showed that he had finally made a choice. Kaishla continued with her life, getting to know other people. But despite Felix being in a new family, it didn't take him long to find a way to continue seeing her in secret. This way, Felix would take Kaishla on many of his so-called work trips, and they would stay in hotels together far from his wife. Even Kaishla's family were aware of this, as he used to visit them as if nothing was happening. As a result of these unhealthy behaviors, Kaishla's family always advised her to distance herself from Felix, as he was only hurting her and didn't truly value her. However, every time Kaishla attempted to break away from Felix, he would seek her out with promises of love, swearing that she would always be the only woman he truly loved. And surely Kaishla believed every word, because despite the years and all the harm he had done, she truly loved him to the point of getting a diamond tattooed on her back as a symbol that he was her true love. On the other hand, Felix's adventures were no secret to his wife, as she had her suspicions, and as 2021 unfolded, the once promising marriage of the boxing sensation was unraveling. Felix Verdejo, no longer the youthful star in the ring, faced a personal crisis. His wife, Eliz, having grappled with her own challenges in life, found it increasingly difficult to overlook Felix's indiscretions. The core issue lay in Felix's reckless behavior, particularly his habit of sending intimate messages to various women, including his former girlfriend, Kaishla. Despite being married, Felix assured Kaishla that a divorce was imminent, a promise that only further strained his marriage. Eliz, feeling betrayed by Felix's lack of loyalty, eventually reached her breaking point and decided to expel him from their home. Felix pleaded for forgiveness, desperate not to disrupt their daughter's life with a broken home. However, his excuses only revealed his deeper flaws. He justified his actions by claiming a need for physical intimacy, which he sought elsewhere when Eliz was unavailable. His treatment of Kaishla was equally problematic, viewing her as merely an option among many and exerting possessive control over her social interactions. In April 2021, despite Felix's pleas, Eliz made the difficult decision to ask him to leave, giving him only a short grace period to find alternative accommodation. Meanwhile, Kaishla discovered she was pregnant, a revelation that brought joy to her family, but dismay to Felix, who had always made clear that their relationship was not serious. He prioritized his family and career over everything else, leading Kaishla to decide on raising the child independently, in line with her values, despite Felix's reluctance. For Felix, however, the pregnancy posed a significant dilemma, threatening the freedom he cherished. He arranged a meeting with Kaishla on the morning of April 29, 2021, under the guise of discussing the pregnancy and confirming its validity. Before the meeting, Kaishla informed her mother about her plans, unaware of the ominous feelings her mother harbored about Felix's reaction to the pregnancy news. However, there was nothing she could do, and besides, Kaishla sounded calm and mentioned that this time it was Felix himself who was looking for her because he now seemed unusually interested in the baby matter. That morning, Kaishla had to go to work earlier than usual because she had to open the store with her boss. So without thinking much, she quickly drove her car to the place where Felix had asked her to meet him, which wasn't far from her home. However, at 8 a.m., her boss had arrived early to open the store, but seeing no trace of her, he messaged her on WhatsApp and started calling her. When he noticed that his messages were marked as read and the calls went unanswered, he began to worry that something bad might have happened. He contacted Kaishla's sister to ask her about Kaishla or if she knew anything about her absence. Her sister, who had no idea what was going on, was surprised that her sister was missing work like this. So she told Kaishla's boss that she would try to locate Kaishla to make sure everything was okay. Then she called her mother quickly around 9 a.m. to inquire about Kaishla, since she had received no response from her sister's phone, and Kaishla had also missed work. Keishla's mother immediately realized that something had happened to her daughter, and Felix was likely involved because her daughter was not the type to disappear without communicating with anyone. First, she tried to contact Keishla herself, but like the others, she received no signs of life. Without hesitation, she took the first flight from Orlando, where she was at the moment, to get to Puerto Rico as soon as possible. Upon arriving, she went to a nearby clinic that performed abortions to see if Keishla was there, as she knew that Felix had pressured her daughter several times not to have the baby. However, the clinic was closed that day, so she headed to Keishla's house, where she found her daughter's 2 dogs without food, which was quite unusual because Keishla always took good care of her pets as part of her daily routine. All of this indicated that something was wrong, so she started asking the neighbors about Keishla, and they told her that they hadn't even seen her walking her dogs that morning, as she usually did. With this unusual situation, Keishla's mother had no choice but to realize that there was only one person who could answer all her questions about where her daughter was, and that person was Felix Verdejo. So she began calling him on his cell phone, and after several attempts, he finally answered. When she asked him about Keishla, he responded with an uncomfortable silence, and only said that he had no idea where she could be. He repeated this multiple times, leaving the woman with no option but to hang up. Despite Felix's denial and his lack of interest in searching for Keishla, her family didn't wait any longer and reported Keishla's disappearance to the authorities. With Keishla's mother testimony, the police made Felix Verdejo the prime suspect, as he was apparently the last person seen with the victim alive. The investigation into Keishla Rodriguez's disappearance swiftly commenced, centering on her recent cell phone activity and call history. On the morning of April 30th, Keishla's family made a heartfelt appeal on a live TV broadcast, seeking public assistance in locating her. They disclosed her relationship with Felix Verdejo and her pregnancy, which was reportedly unwelcome news to the boxer. This revelation quickly dominated media headlines. Later that day, Keishla's car was discovered abandoned. It was found thanks to alert neighbors who notified the police, noting its unusual presence in the area. Examination of the vehicle revealed unlocked doors and untouched personal belongings, eliminating robbery as a motive. At 10:45 a.m., Felix Verdejo appeared at the police headquarters with his lawyer, adhering to legal advice to remain silent. Subsequently, Elis Santiago was also called in to give her statement, as the case began to take on the appearance of a crime of passion, and she was considered a potential suspect. The police intensified their search efforts, seeking security footage from Keishla's last known locations and her usual route. Their focus was also on the final known location of her cell phone, which, intriguingly, matched the location recorded on Felix Verdejo's phone, suggesting that both were in the same area at the time of her disappearance. Investigations revealed that both phones had been in proximity to a bridge, prompting a thorough examination of nearby surveillance cameras. Footage showed that on the morning of the disappearance, a dark SUV parked in an emergency lane near the bridge. Someone exited the vehicle briefly before re-entering and driving off. What raised suspicion was the SUV's return to the same spot at least twice more. Further scrutiny identified this vehicle as a black Dodge Durango, identical to the model owned by Felix Verdejo, deepening the mystery and intensifying the scrutiny on his involvement. On Saturday, May 1st, at 2 p.m., an anonymous 911 call provided shocking information about Keishla's disappearance. The authorities wasted no time and went to the location given by the anonymous informant. There, they discovered a lifeless body floating in the San Jose Lagoon. When the police notified Keishla's family via phone call about the discovery of a body that matched certain characteristics of her, the family was summoned to identify the body, and that's when it was confirmed that it was indeed Keishla Rodriguez. The forensic examination revealed that Kaishla had a fractured jaw and a significant blow to her nose. In addition, the blood analysis showed the presence of drugs capable of rendering someone unconscious to the point of fainting. Her hands and feet were bound with a metal cable to a concrete block, which seemed to have been intended to weigh down her body to the bottom of the lagoon. The victim appeared to be alive until the moment she was thrown into the water, leading to the conclusion that she died from drowning. The following day, the police went to Felix's residence, where they seized his SUV for investigation and analysis, as it was evidently the vehicle used to transport the victim's body. On the evening of May 2nd, Felix turned himself in at the police station with his lawyer and was arrested on charges of kidnapping, auto theft, murder, and the death of an unborn child since the victim was pregnant with a 1-month-old embryo. The boxer was taken to prison without the option of posting bail to prevent him from fleeing the country. Meanwhile, a few days before his arrest, something unexpected happened. A man named Luis Cadiz contacted lawyers, claiming to be an important witness in the case and in need of their services for his defense. He did not have enough financial resources to pay for legal representation, but what he was about to confess would also implicate himself in the crime. These lawyers wasted no time in contacting the police, stating that they had a client with relevant information in this high-profile case. The witness's only request in exchange for his confession was witness protection, as he knew that Felix had the power and cold-bloodedness to have him killed. It was through Luis Cadiz that authorities learned that Felix Verdejo had not acted alone and that he had an accomplice in carrying out this crime. At this point, the entire population of Puerto Rico was outraged and shocked by how someone like Felix Verdejo, who was a national star, could do something like this to a pregnant woman he supposedly loved. The judicial process. By this stage, authorities had compiled a comprehensive collection of evidence against Felix Verdejo, including his text messages, financial records, and footage from security cameras tracking his SUV around the time of the crime. Verdejo's explanation was that he had planned to meet Kaishla, but was delayed due to a prolonged training session, resulting in a missed encounter as Kaishla had work commitments. Eliz Santiago, who had separated from Verdejo by then, reported that on April 29th, Felix had left early for a run and was out of contact until he returned home the next day to collect clothes before heading to the police station. It wasn't until May 2nd that Eliz herself visited the station, where she was treated as a suspect. Felix later reached out to her, expressing regret for leaving her alone with their daughter and admitting his intention to surrender to the police. He downplayed the situation, claiming it was related to a drug trafficking charge. Eliz, in a distressed state, revealed that she had received multiple threatening messages, accusing her of complicity in Kaishla's murder. She was distraught not with Kaishla, but with Felix's actions. Previous messages showed Felix apologizing to Eliz for impregnating Kaishla and expressing his desire not to have another child. Adding to the complexities, one of Felix's former partners came forward as a witness. She claimed that in 2013, Felix had coerced her into terminating a pregnancy that occurred during their nearly 5-year relationship. Felix had given her $300 and instructed her to ensure the pregnancy did not continue, even resorting to threats on one occasion. The most startling testimony, however, came from Ricardo Cadiz, the brother of Felix's alleged accomplice. Ricardo knew Felix since the pandemic, having sold him kilos of cocaine. In April 2021, Felix approached Ricardo for pills that could induce an abortion. On the day of Kaishla's disappearance, Luis had asked Ricardo to pick him up, where he had left Kaishla's abandoned car. Ricardo connected the dots when the news reported the discovery of the car at the same location. When confronted, Luis broke down and confessed to being involved in a murder with Felix, although he claimed ignorance of the victim's identity. Following this revelation, Luis asked Ricardo for help in turning himself in because he couldn't bear the weight of what they had done. Ricardo then called the police to report his brother. Finally, The prosecution brought forward Luis Cadiz, who knew exactly what had happened on that Thursday, April 29th. He began by stating that neither of them had a plan in mind to take Kishla's life. He only knew that Felix was truly desperate and willing to do whatever it took to end the victim's pregnancy. Felix promised to pay Luis a large sum of money if he helped. The day before the incident, the two men had gone to Kishla's residence, but she wasn't there as she had gone to get her nails done, and it was getting late. They drove to the bridge where they finally left her to check the location of the cameras and their surroundings, preparing for their plan the next day with less margin for error. Later that night, they began to plan how they would commit the crime, and the idea of rendering the woman unconscious with a certain substance and then throwing her off the bridge came to mind. Luis provided Felix with a block of cement and a syringe containing a powerful substance. On the fateful day of April 29th, early in the morning, Felix Verdejo sent a message to Luis Cadiz, which he later erased, stating, "We're coming for you, Titan." The duo then set off to meet Kishla at a prearranged location. Upon arrival, Felix instructed Kishla to get into the car, but she was taken aback to find Luis already inside, creating a tense atmosphere. Despite her apprehension, Felix reassured her there was nothing to worry about and asked her to give her car keys to Luis. Nervously, Kishla complied, stressing her need to not be late for work. Sensing the imminent danger, Kishla revealed her pregnancy, showing the document as evidence in hopes of evoking some compassion from them. This revelation, however, had no effect. In a sudden and violent turn, Luis grabbed her by the hair while Felix delivered a punch that knocked her unconscious. Luis then injected Kishla with two substances to ensure she remained unconscious, bound her hands and feet with a metal cable and a cement block, and then the men drove to the bridge. There, believing they were unobserved, they threw Kishla's body into Laguna San Jose while she was still alive. Felix, intent on ensuring the body would not be found, armed himself with a gun and instructed Luis to fire into the water. But both shots missed their mark. Luis then drove Kishla's car away to abandon it, and they both worked to clean Felix's SUV to eliminate any evidence. In his defense, Luis Cadiz claimed that he was under the influence of alcohol and other substances during the crime. He expressed his subsequent remorse, considering turning himself in, and painted himself as a victim, citing depression and anxiety. This narrative sought to mitigate his role in the tragic and brutal events of that day. Puerto Rican former boxer Felix Verdejo was sentenced to life in prison on November 3, 2023 for crimes related to the kidnapping resulting in the death of Kishla Rodriguez, as well as the involuntary manslaughter of the fetus she was carrying. This sentence marks the end of a tragic and condemnable episode that shocked Puerto Rico and many people worldwide. And that's the end of today's case. As always, I appreciate your support for my work. If you subscribe,